Our studios at John Hammond Street at Desawe here in Accra, live across the country on our various affiliates, also on 3news.com. Coming up this evening, Individual Bondholders Forum notified the Ghana Police Service of their intention to picket at the Finance Ministry to back their demand for prompt payment of their matured coupons, as well as a total exemption of their instruments from the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. This is the group led by private legal practitioner Martin Pebble. Meanwhile, the Pensioner Bondholders Forum are back at the Finance Ministry with their picketing over the inclusion in the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. We'll bring you details of what happened today. Also, the Ghana Journalists Association calls for immediate passage of the broadcasting bill to sanitize the airwaves as Ghana joins the rest of the world to observe World Radio Day. Meanwhile, the National Media Commission laments logistical challenges which is seriously hampering its ability to monitor broadcasting space in the country. We'll hear from Executive Director of the National Media Commission shortly. Stay with us. We have all these and more with the business news as well. Grace Amuasari is standing by.
And economics professor John Gachi faults Parliament for failing Ghanaians in the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. We'll tell our listeners why.
Stay with us. We'll give you details of that as well. And in the world of sports, an update on what happened in the Ghana Premier League over the weekend, as well as the English Premier League. And stay with us. We'll go to Turkey. We'll give you updates of what's happening in Turkey and the rescue efforts there. I am Alfred Ocansey. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. Let's get into it now. The Individual Bondholders Forum has notified the Ghana Police Service of their intention to picket at the Finance Ministry over the non-payment of their matured coupons. The action, which begins Monday, February 21, is also to demand that government exempts individual bondholders from the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. Convener of the group and private legal practitioner Martin Pebble has been talking to us. He says that government has reneged on its pledge to honor all matured coupons when they're due, hence the need to remind government of its obligation. Martin Pebble is joining us shortly, but first, leading member of the New Patriotic Party, Gabi Asare Ochedako, has been getting a lot of flack and back and forth, that reaction to his tweet earlier describing the former Chief Justice decision to join the Pension Bondholders Forum as one that lacks understanding. We'll give you details of that shortly. Gabi Asare says the former Chief Justice lacks the understanding of the issues and can self-exempt if she disagrees with the program. Many have taken on the lawyer, describing his attack on the former Chief Justice as unwarranted and disrespectful. Member of Parliament for the Ningo Pram constituency, Sam George, is one of them. We'll hear from him shortly, but here is the former Chief Justice Sophia Kofo when she joined pension bondholders to picket at the Finance Ministry last Friday.
If there is the need to restructure debts, before you even decide you're going to restructure debts, the first thing you need to do, I believe, is to look what is fully under your control and see where you can cut this, you can postpone this, you can reprioritize, and be honest with the people of Ghana. Because of A, B, C, D, and F, we will shelve this. We will put this on the back burner. We will prioritize this because it has to do with education, it has to do with a human life, and so on and so forth. You don't just jump at the low-hanging fruit. And the people whose money is in your hand, and you're going to tell them, okay, your money is in my hand, and this is how you're going to get it back. It's rude, it's wicked, it's unlawful, it's not right.
That's the former Chief Justice Sophia Kofo. Now, just for the uninitiated, here's what happened when Gabi Asare Ochedako on Twitter. He posted, as an individual bondholder myself, that's referring to him, Gabi Asare Ochedako, he wishes to join the others in thanking the persons like Senor Jose, Gehat Mensah and co, who volunteered to lead the advocacy, resulting in a far better, in his view, offer for individual bondholders, particularly pensioners, than the original offer. Whilst he sympathizes with those picketing, he thinks it should be bold enough to ask them what really is the purpose. Why picket over an offer which you have the liberty not to accept? You are asking to be exempted, but from an improved offer program, which is voluntary. Now, shortly, lawyer Martin Pebo will be joining us on the telephone. We'll connect with him on this. But here's what Gabi Asare-Jarko further stated, that the former Chief Justice, Sophia Kufu, may mean well, but she erred big time in her basic appreciation of the issues. Rather than asking the government for exemption at this late hour, why did she simply not exempt herself from the exchange original bond for the new one? He continues in his own epistle of the comments by the former Chief Justice, indicating that why picket over something that you don't like when you have the right not to sign up? Sorry, but I struggle to get her emotional outburst over the exemption. I hope she won't volunteer to picket tomorrow and on the same issues when the time to sign up has expired. Now, this tweet by Gabi Asare-Jarko got lots of people livid about his position of the issues relating to the pensioners who have been picketing over the last 6 days at the Finance Ministry's premises. Well, this is Sam George, who is a member of parliament for the Ningo Pram constituency, sharing his view earlier today on Gabi Asare-Jarko.
No, under normal circumstances, we would have said, oh, this is Ebusuan Tokwa. But we can't leave them because what they are fighting over is public welfare, public funds, public monies that have been mismanaged. And the arrogance with which Gabi is shouting down the Chief Justice, who is raising critical issues about mismanagement of our economy, leaves me worried. You say it is not compulsory. Okay, if I say I would not sign up to the debt exchange program, are you guaranteeing me that when my bonds are due, you will pay me? You say no. The ministry uses a phrase, and the Bank of Ghana in their release, they say your bonds will become untradeable. If my bonds are untradeable, you are telling me that me nyamesika. But that is not what the contract between me and you and I was. And when we are raising this issue, you say that the former Chief Justice who is raising such a critical issue is being emotional. If you are a pensioner who has worked 30-40 years of your life and you have put all your money in a government bond that is supposed to be safe, and because someone has been useless at doing the job that you have taxed them to do, they've been clueless and inept at it, your funds and pensions and your savings is going down the drain, won't you be emotional about it? If you have a mother or a father who is a pensioner who uses their life savings, the coupon rates, the interest on their bonds to buy their medication, and today they are not getting it, won't you be emotional?
Well, that's the member of parliament for the Ningo constituency, Sam George there. Now, his position is shared by many of you who have been commenting on Gabi Asare-Jarko's tweet over the weekend, describing his own understanding of what he says is the Chief Justice's misunderstanding as a gross disrespect to the emotions and the plight of the people, the pensioners who have been faced by this. And guess what? Today, the Pensioners Bondholders Forum, we're back at the Finance Ministry to continue with their picketing over the inclusion of their pensions in the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. We'll hold on a bit to that. Let's go onto the telephone. And Martin Pebo is a private legal practitioner. He is also a leader of one of three individual bondholder groups. He's joining us. Lawyer, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on Hot Edition.
Yeah, good evening.
Great. Great. Well, first of all, and to start with, yes, Gabi Asare-Jarko is making the point that you don't need to picket if you don't want to sign on to it. You can self-exempt. Is that an option, or does it, in his own opinion, make sense to you that this is an option you should take?
Mr. Ocansey, as we speak now, government was required to pay 4.2 billion of the bonds that matured on 6th February. Government hasn't paid and hasn't even given any explanation to these hundreds of thousands of individual bondholders. So you see why nobody is confident about government's intentions now. So when Mr. Ochidaku says we don't need to. No, that's not the full story. As I mentioned, as we speak now, government has failed to pay 4.2 billion. The actual figure is 4 billion
185. Yes, as if as 4.185 billion. Is this the 5-year bond which matured exactly a week ago, February 6th?
Yes. So this has added to and fueled the suspicion that government may be up to no good on this matter. So when people are picketing, it's for good reason. That look, hey, government should be very clear, because you see, government, Mr. Foyata has had a chameleon-like posture. Today this, tomorrow that. He and the president. The president came out and said, oh, there will be no haircut. Individuals are exempted. What happened? There was a U-turn, and so on and so forth. They say today, this is the last extension. Then they come, another extension. You see, so it's been so much drama, a lot of drama. So with this, people are scared and don't know what to do. As I come, people will press and press that, no, let's have this matter resolved. So government should do something. Government is currently owing 4.2 billion. Government hasn't paid, so individuals will have every reason to be scared.
So for you, that self-exemption option is not an option for you. That is your group of individual bondholders. You're going to continue to demand total exemption.
That's correct. And there is a lot of time. Look, even if government were taking the, the program to the IMF tomorrow, government can ask for extension of time. Ghana is not about to collapse today and tomorrow. No, Ghana is not about to collapse. The only time you see there is danger of collapse is when government is insisting on spending so much, 227 billion. When government is trying to run at such a high speed, that is that high speed that can kill government, but not a moderate speed. Look, Mr. Ocansey, if we had said government would spend just like what it spent last year, not increase the budget, we will not have such trouble. We're only having all these difficulties because government wants to spend more. So it's an increased expenditure that is bringing us all this wahala.
I get the sense that for you, is because of the lack of trust for government. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because of this failure on the part of government to pay this 4.18 billion 5-year bond that matured exactly a week ago, for you, because of that development, you don't trust government enough to pay you if you self-exempt.
That's just one of the reasons. There are other ones. Yeah, as I stated previously, the president himself announced there will be no haircut. Today we are having double haircuts and triple and quadruple haircuts. The president announced individuals are exempt. Today individuals have been roped in, and so on and so forth. So it's been the lack of consistency and all those issues. You said that's what brought all these things.
I'm getting some reports that earlier you. What exactly were the details of this engagement with them?
So it was to notify the police about our intention to picket from next or starting on Monday to Friday. So by the Public Order Act, we have to give the police notice. Yes, that's why we had to do that, so that the police will be aware and the police will come provide security.
I see. We're expecting an announcement of the details of this domestic debt exchange program, all things being equal, but tomorrow. I mean, what do you intend to achieve starting your picketing a week away from today?
Oh, well, it's to make sure, as I've stated, look, government has not dealt with us in good faith. Government promised on 27th of January that government will pay all existing bonds. Government will honor all obligations under the existing bonds. Yet the same week, after end of January, Friday, 3rd February, government stated in the memorandum, in the info memorandum or the debt exchange memorandum, that government will not pay. And you see, it's created so much uncertainty and fear and panic. You say, So what I'm saying is that it's better we serve the notice on the police so that the days start counting. So if tomorrow government comes and tells us what we want to hear, individuals are exempt, the bonds, the matured bonds will be paid maybe tomorrow, the same tomorrow, etc. We'll just go back and see the police and tell them that, okay, the picketing is cancelled. But until then, if we don't do so now, so can you imagine if we were to say we'll wait for tomorrow, the announcement before we send the letter, we would have lost today and then tomorrow. And so if you give 2 days notice, it means that would take the picketing to next Wednesday or Thursday. So because we don't want to lose time, that's why we serve the notice. And we told the police, if government does the needful, we'll just come back and withdraw, so to speak. It's not like, when I say withdraw, because it's easier to answer, but to understand. But what it will just mean is that we'll just go and tell the police that, the issue is been resolved, so no more picketing.
I see. We're also monitoring some media reports suggesting that government is said to have achieved more than 80% of the target needed for the domestic debt exchange program. Now, has any of your members, as in those that whom you lead as the Individual Bondholders Forum, given any indication of breaking ranks to go and sign this domestic debt exchange program?
Oh, Mr. Ocansey, as for individuals signing, it's inevitable that a few would have signed. Before we started the campaign, some people had signed. So those are the people that have probably signed. But it happens. Sometimes it happens, yes. But by and large, everybody, we all agree to not sign up, right? And that's the nature, yes. But as I say, in the nature of human beings, sometimes some of these things happen, yeah.
Martin People, thank you so much for your time. And so by a week away from today, your members, you together with your members, are expected to picket at the premises of the Finance Ministry, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That's Martin Pebo. Is a private legal practitioner. He is also a leader of one of 3 individual bondholder groups. Now, they have notified the Ghana Police Service, as expected by law, that they are going to picket at the Finance Ministry's premises beginning next week, Monday. That's the 21st of February. Now, they're going to be the second group out of the 3 individual bondholder groups who are going to picket. So already for the past 6 days, the Pensioner Bondholders Forum, led by Dr. Edouard Anienchi, they've been picketing at the Finance Ministry's premises to have the pensions funds of these pensioners who have invested in government bonds exempted from the domestic debt exchange program. Now, what's going to happen from next week is that there's going to be a second group of individual bondholders led by lawyer Martin Pebo. We're going to join in the picketing as well. But today, the Pensioning Bondholders Forum, they were at the Finance Ministry's premises. Dr. Edouard Anienchi has been speaking to us. We were there earlier today to talk to him as well, together with the pensioners who have been picketing over the last 6 days.
Those of us here, we don't understand what is voluntary. This is my area of expertise and work. So I will not lead people astray if I don't understand what is voluntary. The program has been voluntary from day one. You are not compelled to come under. But for people who don't understand, there's a difference between when the issuer, who is the government, has exempted you from the program, as again when you yourself has volunteered to be out of the program. And I will explain. The issuer has issued some debt instruments. As again, so when you yourself has some amount to be paid to be out of the program. When the issuer says, as for these debts, I don't have any problems with the payment. So I will exempt you from the restructuring. So the issuer tells holders of that bond that for you, I don't have any challenge with the bonds that you are holding. So I will not bring you under the restructuring program. I will exempt you. So it's like telling you that as for you, the bond that you are holding, please go and sleep. Sleep well. Don't think about anything because I am going to do it the way I'm doing it every day. I'm going to continue to do that. So go and sleep. You have been exempted. When you have not been exempted, the government is telling you, as for the rest of you, I may have challenges paying you. And so I wanted you to bring your old bonds and come for a new one, which I can pay. The old one I cannot pay. And you decide that, look, whether you can pay or you can't pay, I won't come. You have decided to stay there. So there are two different things, the positions. Here, the issuer has said, I can do everything on the bond. So please, go and rest. Here, the issuer is saying, I may have problems paying you. And somebody decide that whether you have problem or not, I will not come and change. So two different. When it comes to payment, and I assume the issuer has challenges. Those that the issuer has exempted, they can go to the issuer and say, wait a minute, you told us that we should go and sleep well. Because as for our debt, you don't have any challenges with it at all. So
that's Dr. Edu Anani Enchi. He leads the Pensioners Bondholders Forum. Earlier today at the premises of the Finance Ministry. Today is the day 6 of the picketing, asking one thing from the Finance Minister: a total exemption from the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. Meanwhile, participation in the Domestic Debt Exchange Program, well, from what we are getting, is inching closer to government's target. Now, 3 news sources say more than 80 billion CDs has been tendered in so far, largely by banks, insurance companies, firms and institutions. Now, this represents about 65% out of the 80% government has targeted under the program. But let's go on to the telephone now. Franklin Kujo is founding president of Imani Africa. Franklin, thank you so much for joining us on Hot Edition. Now, this was our earlier monitoring of what government sources earlier communicated. What we are picking from other sources as well is that government, as a finance ministry, may have reached that 80% approval rate for the domestic debt exchange program. From your own reading, is this feasible considering the level of resistance and the concerns raised by both institutions and individual bondholders?
Well, good evening, my good friend. Can you hear me?
Hello, Franklin, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Franklin.
All right, that's fine. Good evening to you and your producers and your listeners.
Great.
Well, the question really is about we have to wait for the finance ministry to tell us exactly what they've managed to achieve. But we had picked up intel way back that of all the institutional bondholders that had signed up, we're already almost at 60-65%, and so that in itself could be deemed to be successful, given the various arm twisting and the fact that it took just about 2.2 months in order to get this done. However discordant, however ineffective the consultations had been. So yes, we have to wait for the official figure. Already some people are questioning this 80% milestone or over 80% milestone that I think Major Alan had reported. People are already questioning the statistical basis. But whatever it is, we need to hear from the Finance Ministry officially on that figure. I mean, I'm more concerned about exactly what this portends for the country going into the future. Don't forget the external party, the external creditors would also be engaged, but that seems to be a done deal already, because once the domestic one, which happens to be the more difficult one, had been scaled, then what it presupposes is that the external one could be quite, I'm sure they've already been speaking with the external party, external creditors, by the way, and so that will just be a walk in the park, really. But for me, I think what it portends for the future, the economic management of the country for the future, is what we should all be very concerned about. Because look, my brother, the very reasons of which we got here would be repeated if we do not, as a country, together, the media, and you, Alfred, I need to single you out. I mean, as one of the most tenacious, if not vociferous, but also very calm-headed, intelligent manner in which you've held this discourse about the economy. You know, often many journalists think they can do the work, but having seen you work for the past, I don't know, I've known you for more than close to 20 years, Alfred, and I've seen the depth of which you've gone to do your work. I always listen to you with relish, and should I say that I'm very, very much happy to see the likes of you get into the national conversations. But now, more than ever, Alfred, is when we need that partnership between civil society. I mean, generally, and civil society here goes beyond the usual suspects, but the churches and all of those that have been very much important, who have been very interested in the conversation, the economic conversations of the country, to start marking the various steps that this finance minister, and indeed the whoever becomes the finance minister even after him, is going to take. Because anything that deviates from the path of fiscal readjustment, my brother, which unfortunately seems to be drowned already by this story of probably successful negotiation of the DDE.
That's right.
Would be our nemesis, and I think it's important that we go back to the table and ask the government. You ask these persons to burden share. Now they have, even though you did it through arm twisting, getting of loins by force and all of that. What is your part of the cake, or what are you bringing to the table in terms of burden sharing? We haven't seen any of that yet. It's a very, very important question we should start engaging the finance ministry and the managers of the economy about. We should ask all of the independent candidates, the candidates that have declared their intentions to run for the office. There's only one candidate that I seem to be hearing from the NPP who seems to be very practical, by the way. But look, it is important now than ever before that the very reasons that made our finance minister celebrate through Kenke Party, saying that he's jumped out the IMF program when he shouldn't have. He really shouldn't have in 2019. He had no reason, and we should even blame the IMF partly for allowing that thing to occur. That the picture that was presented, the optics that were presented, that the government can do it, can be fiscally responsible, and so because of that, it should be taking out the IMF program, was a bit reckless. And I blame both parties for going to do that. We should never ever get on that path again, and we should start that conversation right now.
Now, there's been that suggestion and proposals by the likes of you to have government cut down on its size to at least reduce expenditure as one of the most practical ways of reducing our debt, or also contributing to the burden sharing. So far, that has fallen on deaf ears. No reaction from government, for the want of a better word. So going forward, what has to be done to ensure that if government is adamant in responding to the calls of the people, it will be impressed upon to do so, because citizens have played the part that we expected to do?
You know, that question, now, the answer to that question actually lies in collective investment in trying to build the actions of the work of government. I think, as I said, that there's nothing than a few individuals. I think we should all be concerned that if we don't get a charter with the managers of the economy that says, look, you better get rid of this particular expenditure that you are going to undertake, and probably mobilize a lot more than we have been doing probably hit the streets a lot more than we have been doing, and probably, name and shame more than we have been doing, I don't think we are going to get anywhere. And thank God the elections are going to be around the corner. We should invest our efforts in ensuring a very strict, assessment of whatever plans. In fact, we shouldn't even wait for a strict assessment of the plan. We should come up, and conversations in money have started, by the way. We want to set a rubric. That will be the standard for any Tom, Dick, and Harry that wants to run the affairs of this country to follow. If you don't, we'll do what we did in 2016. We'll mark you and say your idea is quantifiable or non-quantifiable, or not very viable or not. And then mobilize a large number of people to say, well, to hell with you. Maybe it's easier said than done, but we've done it before. And I think, as I said, a partnership with the rest of the country, especially the media, in order to get these conversations going once more again.
I see, and finally, a quick one. For your colleague Brett Simmons put together something, and these are some of the demands that you're making, that government must not dilly-dally in presenting a credible strategy of how it will cut public expenditure to plug the fat fiscal hole by shrinking at least 25 billion of its expenditure sheet. The final one, which is of interest to me and many, is the calls for an independent value for money and monitoring and evaluation program with a remit spanning across the entire set of budgeted government programs. How should this be done, or what are some of the areas that government should pay attention, or you expect government to pay attention to, while we are on this path of burden sharing?
My brother, I mean, this question should probably even go back to the Vice President, who had superintended a program called the Value for Money. It was a Value for Money program. You remember he started these conversations about Value for Money. He had a big press conference at the Marriott Hotel, I think 3 years ago.
This was 3 years ago, yes.
And but nothing has happened. If you want to see the results of that fiasco, just look at the reports that the money led on the assessment of over 1,000 public procurement contracts in this country. We did an assessment of 1,000 of them, and my God, almost 80 to 90% of the contracts were did not pass muster when it comes to value for money. So clearly, there's been a failure on that front, which is why my colleague Bryce Simmons intelligently is calling back again to have that unit. And you see, he's not necessarily having a unit that has to have a number of bureaus going from one ministry to the other with a scalpel looking at what they are doing. This already exists within the various ministries. And I have to single out my good friend Eva Menz, who clearly is currently one of those helping the finance minister to restructure this economy. I mean, Eva is a stellar brain, by the way. I hope she's giving more room to impart intelligently to that group that works at the ministry. Look, Eva and I had a conversation about how it is somehow difficult for the finance ministry to determine the various values that budgets that have been brought by the various ministries to the finance ministry when the process of budget is ongoing, right? And I think she makes an intelligent point, which I suspect we can all build upon, that we should, as much as possible, have enough room, enough time for the various ministries to bring their budgets for some sort of assessment to be done. Because if there's not enough time for that to be done, and they are presented and the budget pressures are coming, and then the budget is presented, there will be challenges going forward. So this thing must be worked between the Parliament, as well as the Ministry of Finance and the various ministries and various MDAs, in order to have enough time to assess the various programs, projects, and policies, if you like, that the various ministries have come up with. Maybe that's one way of ensuring this independent value for money work that could be done. Otherwise, we'll just be going in circles and nothing useful will come out of it. So it is important to have an assessment of sorts that must be done within the various ministries and way before and some sort of an umpire. That's where maybe the PPA's work will be more useful rather than doing what should I call it? Doing audit of it while already when the budgets have been approved.
That's right. Mr. Franklin Kujo, thank you so much for your time. As always, we will do what we have to do as media to push this agenda forward and get the right things done. Thank you so much.
We are grateful.
Great. Franklin Kujo is founding president of Imani Africa, also on some of the recommendations, in fact, that Bright Simmons, who is executive vice president of Imani Africa, also put in this article, which we have a copy of. You can find on 3news.com. They are saying that government must not fail to mobilize a serious national consensus behind a short-term to medium-term austerity plan. Government must not dilly-dally in presenting a credible strategy of how it will cut public expenditure to plug the fat fiscal hole by shrinking at least 25 billion cedis of its expenditure sheet. Now, the report about government achieving over 80% of the approval of the domestic debt exchange program is actually being doubted by many people who have been watching the space quite closely. Professor John Gachi is the Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School. He is also, like you just heard, Franklin Kujo, raising questions about the credibility of the reports that government has achieved over 80% approval rate for the domestic debt exchange program.
Well, I think the finance minister told all of us that the target is working with 80%. So, as at Friday, the indication is that they could get as much as 70%, but it was difficult to get the 80%. So, if indication is being rumored that they get 80% or 80+%, one would like to know whether or not the pensioners and the individual bondholders are included in what they are getting now. Because the understanding is that if the individual bondholders and the pensioners are not included, they cannot get the 80%. So it is curious what kind of mathematics is going on, because it is based on that the finance minister was begging the pensioners to be included. So how come all of a sudden we are hearing about 80% plus? So there must be something that ought to be explained, especially whether the individual bondholders who have not signed are added by force or what.
That's Professor John Gachi, who is a dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, also on this domestic debt exchange program. We're also live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also live on Facebook. It's 3FM 92.7. Also on Twitter at 3FM 927. Now, the Ghana Journalists Association has called for the immediate passage of the broadcasting bill to help sanitize the airwaves. The bill, drafted in 2019, was in response to the clamor for a law to regulate the Ghanaian broadcasting and particularly deal with unprofessionalism and other excesses in the space. Almost 3 years on the bill is yet to see the light of day. In a statement we understand issued today to commemorate the World Radio Day, General Secretary of the Ghana Journalists Association, Kofi Yeboah, urged the executives and the legislature to give maximum attention to the bill and get it passed. It also reminded radio broadcasters to be conscious of their obligation towards peace, especially as the 2024 electioneering period gathers momentum. The GJA is worried about the many instances of radio programs or broadcasts that tend to foment violence to a very large extent rather than promote peace. It therefore called on the owners and managers of such radio stations to refine the programming and ensure sanity on the airwaves. Meanwhile, the National Media Commission has revealed its broadcasting monitoring has been seriously hampered by lack of equipment. Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission, George Sapon, in an interview with Johnny Hughes, disclosed the only monitoring center at the Commission has broken down and thus unable to do effective monitoring of the airwaves.
As of now, our monitoring system is completely down. We constructed a world-class monitoring system with the support of the European Union. We did this by making huge promises to the EU that the state of Ghana was going to do a number of things to support us. One, provide the suitable accommodation for the equipment. To support us to recruit and train professional staff to manage the process. Hard as we try, the state reneged on this. So over a period of time when we operated the system, it just gave way. And as we speak now, we don't have any regulatory system in place.
If your system of monitoring is down as we speak, what exactly is the NMC been doing?
Well, that's a very big question that we need to address directly. So what we have been doing of late is that we are unable to do any systematic monitoring, and we have a manual system that focuses on some specific media only because maybe they have come into our regulatory attention.
Well, so that's the Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission there. Let's settle in for the news in the world of business. Stay with us here on Hot Edition. We're going to Turkey, give an update of what's happening there. Grace Hamosari is here. Grace?
Hello, Alfred.
What's happening in business?
Well, we're talking about the domestic debt exchange program and why Professor of Finance John Gachi says Parliament has failed Ghanaians by not inviting the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta before the debt exchange program was concluded. Finance Minister is scheduled to answer questions in Parliament on Thursday, but speaking earlier on this brief, Professor Gachi, who is Dean of University of Cape Coast Business School, said Parliament should have recalled from recess to discuss the exchange program.
Look, since December 2022, there was so much noise around the country concerning this debt exchange program. Parliament was looking on, seeing pensioners picketing over a number of days, some having exchanges with the minister. Nothing was heard. It was just last week or so that Parliament said they are calling the minister to come. If this is prioritized as a major national development, Parliament would have been called to come to look into this matter, invite the minister for the minister to appear before it and make some statement to clarify the issues. That was not done. So I believe it is too late. The Parliament of Ghana didn't act timeously, and we do not expect that something concrete will happen when the finance minister meets Parliament. The minister gets whatever he wants all the time, and when he gets to Parliament, he's going to get what he wants.
That was Professor of Finance John Gachi there. To other stories, Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Grade Company Limited, Ebenezer Kofi Esieni, says actions of Galamsey operators are affecting transmission lines. According to him, some illegal miners consciously dig under their lines while others steal components of their towers. All of these bring additional costs to the company. He warns that the law will deal with any perpetrator caught in the act.
Galamsey cost, it's huge. Some of them, instead of one tower, we need to leave the tower place, get contractors to spend maybe $200,000 to insert an additional tower, which under normal circumstances we shouldn't have. We used to have bolt and nut to screw our tower members. At a point in time, we changed it and used what we call the anti-theft. The anti-theft, you cannot go with a spanner and try to remove it. Now what they do is that they go with at times whether it's motooed or because the members are thick, but when you get there you can see that somebody spent time here in cutting this. Those are deliberate. Those are vandalism. When you are caught, that one the law will deal with you.
That was voice of Ebenezer Kofi Esieni, Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Grade Company Limited. Before we go, let's look at the update on the cedi, and demand for dollars on the interbank market has shot up as multinational companies begin repatriating profit for dividend payment. The increased demand for the U.S. currency means the cedi will continue to face an uphill till the repatriation sat down. Bids for the local currency on the market hovered around 12 cedis, 55 pesos, and offers around 12 cedis, 65 pesos. The cedi has not suffered its usual first quarter losses against the dollar when multinationals moved their profit to mother companies. Market watchers explain that investors have adopted a wait-see approach as government seals the domestic debt restriction. And that will be all for business on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Hamwa Ajiman. Alfred, back to you.
Grace Hamwa Ajiman. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us with the business news. You can find more on 3news.com. Yao Ofosu Labi is joining us with all the news in the world of sports. Kawawa.
My brother.
How you doing? I'm all right. How are you?
I'm okay.
How was the weekend?
It was good.
What's the relationship between Valentine and sports?
I don't think there's. I don't think there's anything.
You are the nexus. So yeah.
I didn't know that.
Let's get into what.
We've been asking fans of Ghana and in the Black Stars how they feel about the appointment of Chris Hughton. But before we get into that, former Brighton manager Chris Hughton has been appointed head coach of the Ghana national team. But Member of Parliament for Ningo Prampram constituency, Sam George, has questioned the appointment, describing the former Brighton coach as malleable.
Now the question is, why Chris Hughton? Is he the best hand available, or is it because he will be malleable and acceptable to the interests of people at the FA? And the point I make here is the problem of our Black Stars is one of favoritism, and one where we are not selecting our best players, but it's become an issue of people having to pay money to get selections, or you have relationships and godfathers in the FA who would decide that this is the coach's selection, this is the coach's tactics. If you think you know the job, resign from your position at the GFA and apply to be coach of the Black Stars, and then do your selection. But you sit in an administrative capacity and you want a coach to run his selection by you. Who does that in today's day and age?
That's MP for the Ningo Prampram constituency there, Sam George. Now we took to the streets to seek the views of Ghanaians on the appointment of Chris Hughton, and this is what they had to say.
The wait is finally over. Chris Hughton has been named the head coach of the Black Stars team, with the announcement coming in on Sunday evening. Now we are here at the Tiptoe Lane in Accra to find out from the fans how they feel about the new appointment of the Black Stars coach.
I'm very much happy about it. All you have to do is to put his best effort, and there will not be any discriminating, and it will create love.
I'm not even happy with those who appointed him, to talk of him who has arrived. The whole idea was a charade, it was a scam, a well orchestrated agenda. Ghana as a country cannot say, okay, he won this as a coach. We employed based on his personality, or what criteria do we use to employ him? We want to know. Because you don't just say, I've employed a coach, he played for blah, blah. No. There should be a reason, a track record. Based on that track record, then Ghanaians can say, okay, during his playing, his coaching, he won this, he won that.
Me, I see it coming, and it's not a news to me. But if they will stop this corruption and personal interest in Ghana football, it will help.
We will beg the Chris Hughton not to listen to any management or so-called staffs. He should stand his authority.
For him to succeed, he have to stay away from Kurt and his entourage, because they will influence him. They will manipulate him.
As for now, we go take him like that, because he has been with the team for some time, and we know him in English Premier League. Yeah, he coached Newcastle and Brighton before, so he gets some experience where he go feel.
Well, those are views of Ghanaians speaking about Chris Hughton and his appointment as new head coach of the Black Stars. To our final story, and Kylian Mbappe has returned to training ahead of a schedule before Paris Saint-Germain's Champions League last 16 first leg tie with Bayern Munich. The France forward was expected to be out for for 3 weeks after suffering a thigh injury earlier this month. Mbappe trained on the eve of Tuesday's heavyweights match, which is a repeat of the 2020 final, which Bayern won by 1-0. Lionel Messi, who has received treatment for a hamstring problem, has also been named in PSG squad. The returns of Mbappe and Messi would be a huge boost for Paris Saint-Germain, who have lost their last 2 domestic matches. My name is Yao Fusulabi. That's all the sports. Alfred.
Yeah, thank you so much. Now, but I mean, you can understand the sentiments of the people you spoke to about Chris Hughton, is it not? I mean, but the people who put themselves, at least, apart from him, who else?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
we had Kwesi Appiah at the point.
Kwesi Appiah applied. The Hearts coach Zlatko Matic applied. But I think that, you see, for Hughton, I think that he is, for the first time in maybe say 4 or 5 years, this is the only appointment that I'm actually happy with. I mean, one of the fans was talking about track record, and if you're talking about track record, I think Chris Hughton has it. You know, he's had a very tough time on the club level.
That's right.
You know, he's had to work with shoestring budgets on many occasions. Hasn't particularly won anything, but this is a Ghana side that has huge potential. And if you look at him through the ranks, when he was working at Tottenham, at Newcastle, he already had an established team, but at Brighton, where he built a team for 5 years, at Norwich, where he did that for 3 years, you could see some progression within the team and how he built the squad. So I'm just hoping that he's able to do this with his Ghana side. It is a very obvious appointment. It was something that, you know, we knew for a very long time. The FA had just prolonged it, and I don't know why they decided to prolong it, but it was a very obvious choice. And so, I mean, congratulations to him. I just hope that he does well in his role.
And he'll be tough-skinned to resist any oppressor's rule and interference,
That is the main thing.
From anybody.
And you see, that the thing about Hughton is that he has to reject it.
He has to reject
succeed.
it.
No, he has to, because if your job, I mean, if your reputation is on the line, and you look through your CV, you've not won anything, and you look at this Ghana team, which could potentially win you something, are you going to listen to people who are going to derail your course, or are you going to stick to the plan and make sure that this Black Stars team can actually win?
We'll see how things play out. Yeah, thank you so much. Akofa is here with all the news in the world of entertainment. Great evening to you. All is well?
Hi, Alfred.
You're in the Valentine mood already.
I think it will be in full swing
Tonight.
at 8 p.m.
Tonight.
Yes, yeah.
Soothing.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness me. Let's get into what you have.
Right, coming up tonight, iconic music duo Tego Sisters announced new management. Also, Black Sherif wins at Sound City MVP Awards. And finally, Rihanna reveals she's pregnant at Super Bowl halftime show. My name is Akofa, and now the stories. Linmat Media Solutions are the new managers of the Tego Sisters brand. Any persons or organizations interested in booking or engaging the Tego Sisters are directed to contact Linmat Media Solutions. This information was contained in a communique which reads, Linmat Media Solutions, an artist and events management company, is delighted to announce to the general public and the media that henceforth it is the new management for the Tego Sisters brand. Linmat Media Solutions bears the responsibility for all media and public engagement, brand positioning, and commercial bookings. Details of this new union will be made known during a planned news conference stipulating activities for the 40th anniversary celebrations of Tego Sisters in the gospel and Ghana music industry. And congratulations are in order as Ghanaian music sensation Black Sherif won the prestigious Hip Hop Act of the Year award at the 2023 edition of Sound City MVP Awards in Nigeria over the weekend. The award and festival was held at the Eco Convention Center, Lagos, Nigeria, where several showbiz personalities on the African continent gathered for the occasion. The 21-year-old beat competition from South Africa's Nasty C and Deceased aka Nigeria's Black Bones, Ladipo, as well as Kenya's Calligraph Jones, among others, to emerge winner with his global smash hit Kweku the Traveler. And on the international front, Rihanna delivered an electrifying and hit-heavy halftime show at Sunday's Super Bowl, but social media went into a meltdown when the singer revealed an unexpected special guest. In an interview last week, the singer was asked if there would be any surprises during her performance, and she replied, "I'm thinking about bringing someone. I'm not sure. We'll see." Naturally, fans assumed she was talking about one of the many artists she's collaborated with during her illustrious career. But Rihanna wasn't referring to any of them. The singer may have failed to debut any new music during her performance at Sunday's Super Bowl, but the baby bump she debuted instead almost broke the internet. The singer had 13 minutes to entertain her fans at the stadium and the world over. She rattled through several recognizable hits, including Only Girl in the World. My name is Akofa, and that's how we end the entertainment news.
Join Akofa at 8 p.m. and what do we call it?
Wind down.
Wind down.
Absolutely.
Soothing music. Great stuff. Akofa at 8 p.m. on 3FM 92.7. While we round up, a young girl has been saved from the rubble of a block of flats in southern Turkey more than a week after the devastating earthquake struck. Mary had been trapped in the ruins for 178 hours, 7.5 days. Video showed workers cheering and shouting "God is great" as she was lifted out of the darkness. Several others were saved on Monday, including a 13-year-old boy trapped for 182 hours. But rescuers say they're becoming quite rare as the death toll passes 35,000. Now, if you go on our Facebook page and Twitter page right now, you'll see some of the pictures of what's happened in Turkey. Now, this is partly due to limits on how long the human body can survive without water. Other factors include how much space the trapped person has to breathe and how bad their injuries are and the emergency situation there. And for the Ghanaian interest, we've been speaking to the leader of the Ghanaian community in Ankara, one of the towns in Turkey, or the cities in Turkey, is been telling us. Dr. Mahmoud Mubarak says all is well with the Ghanaians who have been rescued so far, and they're getting support from other Ghanaians in and around Turkey.
First, good evening to your viewers. The situation is good. We have divided the group into two. Some of them are going to Istanbul, and some of them are coming to Ankara. As I speak to you now, those going to Istanbul, some of them have already set off. They're on their way. Tomorrow, by midday or so, they should be in Istanbul. And over there, they'll be met by an officer from the consulate, the Ghana consulate in Istanbul, together with some officers from an organization that, let me say, a civil society organization, who are helping us with accommodation, food and other things, that will make life easy for them. Yeah, so they will meet them at the Istanbul bus terminal, and they will take them to their place of residence. And then those coming to Ankara, we'll be here to meet with them, together with officers from the embassy, to welcome them to Ankara and take them to their place of abode. Already today, we have received a family of 3 this afternoon. They came, one child, the father, and then the mom, and they came to Ankara. They have been taken to their residence, and everything is fine as we speak right now. Yeah.
That's Dr. Mohammed Mubarak, a leader of the Ghanaian community in Ankara, giving us details of what happened in Turkey with respect to the Ghanaians who were living in these affected areas. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Stay with us, there's more coming up. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a great evening.